You're about to learn the #1 healthiest food on planet Earth. If you can guess what it is, please comment down below. I'm very curious what you think this is. There is a food on this planet that does something that no supplement, no superfood can come even close to matching, and what this thing can do. And it doesn't just feed the person, it teaches the immune system. It has the ability to train your gut microbiome, and it actually has the ability to adapt and change depending on what's happening in your environment. Nothing else we eat even comes close to this. It contains immune cells, hormones that have the ability to adapt from morning to night. It also contains stem cells, which is next level. So the #1 healthiest food on planet Earth is human breast milk. And this is why it's so vital that a new mother chooses breast milk over infant formula. Now, I know a lot of you watching are not a baby, but I am going to share with you the next best food to consume if you're an adult. And so this video is going to apply to your health, but I needed to. The benefits of breast milk give you a foundation on the importance of breast milk and what it actually does to our bodies if you were fortunate enough to have breast milk when you're a baby. Because when I did a deep dive into this topic, I was just blown away at what actually breast milk is. It is a super immune builder. Half of the mother's immune system, called the innate immune system, is given to that infant partially through breast milk. I mean, just think about that for a second. You have the innate immune system that you're born with, or your mother gives you, and then you have over here the acquired immune system that you have to develop through getting sick and then having your body recover, because your body will learn when it goes through that infection process. So those of you that were fortunate enough to actually go through breastfeeding have a much stronger immune system. You have a much less chance of getting autoimmune diseases, allergies, because your immune system is stronger. In breast milk, you have certain proteins that heal the gut wall. Breast milk has certain sugars that are not digestible by the baby. They selectively feed not the baby, but microbes, and they're highly protective against inflammation. Modern foods, especially infant formula, can't even get close to the benefits of breast milk. Another thing is something called colostrum benefits colostrum. You can look at colostrum like a newborn starter kit. It protects the immune system big time. Even if you're an adult and you take colostrum, it can greatly support the gut barrier to prevent against leaky gut. And so infant formula versus breast milk, let's talk about this infant formula, because infant formula is the first ultra-processed food that a child is exposed to. It's basically junk food, and that's my opinion. Yes, infant formula may keep the child alive, but from my viewpoint, it does nothing to build the health of that child. And even if you look up the definition of food in the dictionary, that which is eaten to sustain life, provide growth and repair of tissues, formula doesn't even fit that definition. Infant formula is more of a delivery system to hit certain numbers, calories, proteins, vitamins. Of course, they're synthetic. An infant formula does not consider the quality of those calories, those proteins, those nutrients. Now, in the news recently, heavy metals in baby formula, maybe you've heard of RFK and HHS looking closely at infant formula. They're looking at the heavy metals in infant formulas because some of the ingredients in infant formula are like sponges for heavy metals, which is devastating for a newborn, especially their brain development. Consumer Reports tested 41 different infant formulas, and they found heavy metals in a lot of these, and it varied greatly. So this is one reason RFK through HHS is evaluating these heavy metals. Formula is basically a chemistry project, not a food. It usually has industrial seed oils, refined sugars, synthetic vitamins, and then processed protein. Sometimes it's like soy protein, unfortunately, but all of this is labeled through a loophole, Complete Nutrition. So I just compared breast milk to infant formula. And so now the question is, as an adult, what would be a comparable product that you can consume? Would it be milk? And the answer is no, for a couple reasons. First of all, most milk that you consume is pasteurized because you have to go way out of your way to find raw milk. And despite what they say about raw milk, realize when they pasteurize milk, it's dead. Okay? They kill everything in it, destroying enzymes, immune factors, it's altering fat membranes. So what is the healthiest food's next best thing? Fermented dairy. Let me explain that. Okay, kefir, raw milk, cheese, and also yogurt. But for yogurt and kefir, what they might do is they might pasteurize it first and then ferment it with bacteria. Let me tell you what's so amazing about fermented dairy. When you do the fermentation process in which you're adding bacteria, there's all sorts of additional things that are created that were not there originally. And so even the protein in dairy is broken down into smaller proteins that are very easy to digest. There are things in fermented dairy that actually help your immune system stop overreacting. There are vitamins in fermented dairy like vitamin K2 that are created from the microbes. Now think about that for a second. These microbes are little machines or factories that make all sorts of additional things for you and exchanges. You're giving them certain things like lactose to eat, and then they give you these amazing benefits like even vitamin K2. It helps remove the calcium from soft tissues, from your joints, from the arteries, and it pushes that calcium into your bones and your teeth. Now the other thing is that most adults have a problem with lactose. They can't digest lactose. We don't have the enzymes. Well, it just so happens that when you ferment dairy, you're letting the microbes eat up that lactose. So the amount of lactose is much less when you have fermented dairy. The minerals in dairy are much easier to absorb than just regular milk, and I'm talking about calcium. In other words, these microbes kind of condition the minerals to make them very easy to go in our bodies. You're getting a probiotic. There's beneficial bacteria that not only help to reseed our guts, but they also help to change the environment in our guts. So certain microbes that were dormant can come back to life. It creates nutrients, vitamin B2, B12, folate, biotin. There are a lot of things in fermented dairy that help modulate or regulate your immune system. Fermentation also increases something called the Treg cells, which prevents an immune overreaction. And this is why almost every single ancient culture had some form of fermented dairy. I'm talking for thousands of years. It's been around. I consume fermented dairy on a daily basis. I consume kefir. I consume raw milk cheese every single day. I also consume Bulgarian yogurt. And if you're in Europe, you have a huge advantage because nearly all the cheese is raw. In America, you have to really hunt and peck for it because it's not as available. But in America, there's always places that you can go to get European cheeses, which I consume a lot of. And this is not just because I'm from Wisconsin. It's because I feel better when I consume raw milk cheese. Now, do I consume raw milk? I am not against it. I know a lot of people that love it. I personally cannot consume it because of the lactose. So with fermented dairy, you're putting a lot of attention on supporting your microbiome. And if you make them happy, they're going to make you very happy. So fermented dairy is the closest thing adults have to breast milk. Now, since we're on the topic of fermentation, there is an amazing video on how you can take a micro L rootery and turn it into a cultured yogurt product that can take your health to the next level. And for that information, watch this video right here.